This podcast is one of my favorite of the year, and I know it's the first podcast of the year, but it's my favorite of even all of last year. Today, we are talking all about health. We're going to be discussing 10X health systems with registered nurse Mary Beth Summers. Mary Beth has been in my life for, I want to say, over 10 years now, part of the Thrive Forever Fit Flex program. So if you're in that program, you've got direct access to Mary Beth, who is an absolute rock star. We're going to talk about blood diagnostic testing. We're going to talk about genetic testing, and we're going to talk about IV therapy today. Guys, if this is the year, and you've made this statement, this is the year that I get healthy. This is the year that I get fit. This is the year that I take my wellness seriously, then this podcast is for you. You are going to be absolutely blown away. Holy Toledo. I needed this. This podcast is rock star awesome. You're going to love it. Here we go. Mary Beth and I are about to scrap it up. Get yourself a pen, get some paper. You're going to want to take notes. This one's awesome, guys. I promise. Mary Beth, what's going on? Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Jay. Thank you for having me today.
Well, today's an important conversation that I'm super excited to have. I know you are. We're going to talk about 10X health systems. We're going to talk about who is Mary Beth. So for those of you guys that don't know, I'm going to let her explain all of that. But Mary Beth has been a client, a friend, a colleague, a confidant of mine for feels like 100 years. Neither one of us are quite that old, but for a really, really long time. Somebody that I trust, not only just as a human being, but as a medical professional. Her opinion, her belief systems are right in alignment with mine. And that's the reason we're here today. We're going to talk about 10X health systems and what that means. But before we do that, Mary Beth, just give me your background. Tell us who you are, what you do, and why you're doing it. And then we'll jump into the sweet stuff in a sec.
All right. So my name is Mary Beth Summers, and I am a registered nurse. I have a bachelor's degree in nursing, and I've been nursing for over 24 years. Which is hard to believe, but yes. And I have specialized in infusion therapy for the last 15 of those years. And I have taken a passion towards functional medicine, to the finding out why people are getting sick, as opposed to caring for them once they're already sick and not knowing the why behind it.
That's super powerful, right? Like it feels like medicine is predicated on, well, after you get sick and you possibly might be ready to die, like then we're ready to take care of you. I'm with you. Like I want to cut that horse off at the pass and get a person before they ever even get sick. And so I love that you're kind of making that transition, but I also love that you've been on the other side, because you know what, so explain that a little bit. You said, because you kind of casually said, well, infusion medicine, blah, 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 like, without telling us things you can't tell us, like what kind of patients have you worked with over the course of the last 24 years when you're talking about that infusion medicine? I just want people to understand that you haven't been like clipping toenails and not that that's not important, but you haven't been like checking for fevers and coughs and little things like that. What kind of patients have you been working with?
So my focus has been infectious disease, which was a true passion of mine, seeing so many things, infectious disease before COVID ever came around, but things like pneumonias, infections, surgical wounds, like you name it, anything infection related. That's what I used to tend to, both with IV therapy and wound care specialty here in Palm Desert, California, in the desert.
Yeah, so some life-threatening things, right? Like things that if they aren't corrected and or mitigated are going to lead to the final stage that we all want to try to avoid.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right. And you've also dealt with a lot of patients that have like end-stage cancers or really aggressive cancers and things of that nature, from a perspective of trying to figure out how to keep them alive.
That's exactly right. We did a lot of biologics. We do a lot of Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, biologics, rheumatoid arthritis, you name it, any type of biologic that's out there, I've given.
Yeah.
So that encompasses all of that under that same umbrella.
Right. And I think it's important to acknowledge that, because what we're about to talk about is way before any of that ever takes place, hopefully. That's the goal, right? Is to create a system of health for humans that hopefully they never, ever, ever have to meet someone that does what you used to do in that kind of end stage or really infectious stage of a disease state, correct?
Correct.
Beautiful. Okay. So your new passion and your new kind of, functional medicine, let's treat the actual situation rather than the symptoms. Passion for, helping humans has kind of led you down the road of the 10X health system, correct?
Correct.
All right, let's talk about that now. What is 10X health system?
So 10X Health Systems is the brainchild of Mr. Gary Brecka. He is out of Naples, Florida. He's the CEO and president of Streamline Medical. So what he's discovered as a biochemical engineer is, how the body works. So he was interested in finding out the why, things happen to people, and it was able to identify through biochemical markers, years before they would even be close to passing away, what they were going to die from.
Yeah. If you guys, so don't Google Gary Brecka because you will go down a rabbit hole. I've probably listened to 1,700 podcasts that he's been on. I'll interject just really quickly there because as you guys can tell, I am passionate about what Mary Beth's doing, and it's so exciting to me that I can't shut up. So Gary's actually, like Mary Beth said, a human biologist who used to work for insurance companies as a predictor of life, meaning, I'm going to hurt some feelings here, but like when you get insurance, like the idea is that insurance hopefully never has to pay you out, meaning like life insurance and things of that nature. Like they don't enjoy paying like 10 and $15 million policies. So Gary's job was to look at your life history and predict how long you had to live. And therefore, then the insurance company could comfortably write a policy related to said information. He decided that felt very crippling to him because he could never have any patient interaction. Like he never got to speak to a patient, didn't know the patient's name, didn't know anything about them. And even if he did, by law, he was not allowed to help that person at all. Even if he saw something that was very glaring, he could not make a recommendation. He couldn't say, hey, you got a drug interaction here that's going to kill you. So this gentleman has a massive amount of information. And now he's shifted that over into preventative care with 10X Health Systems. That's kind of like Jay's radical way of saying like this dude is now trying to make a massive difference in the world and is doing so. He is brilliant. And I don't use that word lightly. You guys have maybe heard me say that 3 or 4 times in the entire 300 episodes of this podcast. I think he's a brilliant guy with a brilliant passion who is really into making a difference. Mary Beth has teamed up with him and his company. And Mary Beth, go ahead. I'm going to try to shut up.
No, that's okay. So the main focus is to shift towards a patient-centered focus to kind of customize for each individual person what care they specifically need. Because we all know when we go to our doctor, they give the same set of labs, the same set of tests, and they really don't customize, for each patient what is wrong with them to find out. So that is something that 10X Health System is passionate about, and that is focusing on what each individual person has in their own body and how we can optimize everybody's health.
Can I tell a quick story, Mary Beth?
Sure.
I said I was going to shut up, but this is so relevant. I had a client that came in today, a regular client of mine. I've known this gentleman for going on 15 years. He's in his 70s. He's a retired physician, smart gentleman, just got his blood work done with his cardiologist, not his primary care physician, but somebody who specializes in his cardiovascular health. His triglycerides were, in my opinion, elevated to a point of concern. His good cholesterol had dropped, meaning you don't want that to drop. You want that to go up. His bad cholesterol had gone up. His glucose, fasting glucose, was over 100. I want to say it was 104. I said, well, what'd he say? He said, don't worry about anything. And I said, well, I'm not medically trained to give you advice, obviously, but I don't know if that's the best thing that I've ever heard. Not that that's enough information to make a radical change, but I would, if I was the person I'm talking about, I would be alarmed. And I said, well, did he test for any other biomarkers other than just the basic cholesterol? He said, no. He said, you can't do anything about those anyway, so don't even worry about them. I said, well, that's contradictory to everything that I know. But again, I'm not your cardiologist. I said, what was your hemoglobin A1C? He said he didn't test for it. I said, okay. I said, well, did he test for it last time? He said, yeah, he tested for it last time and it was a little elevated. I said, but he didn't test for it this time? He said, no. He said he didn't think it was important. I said, well, if it was elevated last time and we didn't test for it this time, why did it all of a sudden not become important? Right. So you guys can see here, like I'm not even this gentleman's cardiologist. I'm his trainer. And I'm alarmed, right? I mean, I've got a pretty extensive medical background, but I'm alarmed. This is the standard of care, which I am intolerant of. And this is why Mary Beth and I are talking today. I felt like that was a relevant story, Mary Beth, because that's what we're trying to prevent here. That's what we're trying to get away from. Because that's, I mean, what you tell me, if I told you that same story and just said, whatever, there's nothing to worry about. I mean, would you have some red flags anywhere in that, just that small piece?
I would have huge red flags.
Yeah. Okay. Me too.
They're so compartmentalized, today's health system, that they don't look at the big picture. And that's why we're having the issues that we're having here.
And this is a 75-year-old gentleman, right? And so it's like, he's seemingly in good health. I mean, he could live to be 100, but I need some information because I want him to live to 100, right? Like I'm more dissatisfied than he is. So anyway, let's get back to it. So let's talk about the 3 pillars of 10X Health. Like, what are they really focused on? And I think that'll help drive us to the diagnostic piece of this whole puzzle.
Absolutely. So the 3 pillars of health for the 10X Health system are the glucose testing to find out how everyone's blood sugar is, because the root of all evil is glucose, not money, because money won't kill you, glucose will.
Exactly.
So
glucose control.
Glucose control, hormone health.
Okay, that's a massive one.
And nutrient deficiencies in your blood.
Okay, so let's touch on, I think, glycemic control. We can all understand kind of what that means. That means elevated blood sugar, which leads to a laundry list of, I think the most common thing people are probably thinking of is diabetes, right? Which is
correct,
obvious, but there's more to it than that, right?
Can I just add onto that? I realize
you have to add on to it. That's what you're here for. Yes, you interrupt me anytime you want. You go.
That there is a type 3 diabetes.
Can I answer what it is?
You can answer what it is. Go ahead.
Because I know what it is. So you.
But this is fascinating to me. It's the amount of glucose that's in the brain, and diabetes type 3 is one of the leading causes of Alzheimer's and dementia.
I just actually read a study on that yesterday, because I was having that same kind of conversation with a client about elevated glucose and about the cognitive decline that they're noticing between the two.
Right.
Crazy.
Correct.
Scary.
Yeah. So yeah, that is crazy. So and then talk about the hormone.
Yeah, hormonal control. Because one of the questions that, Mary Beth, you've been with me, like I said, forever. What does people always say? It's like, Jay, I think my hormones are messed up.
Right.
I've probably heard that question, a billion times?
Every day.
And then so I said, okay, well, what does your blood say? And the person usually says, I don't know. Right. And then we try to get them to go to their primary care physician. Primary care physician runs the pedestrian set of labs that is just as basic for me, to you, to the 75-year-old client I was just talking about. We're all 3 going to get the same things done. It's going to be very basic level. Client's going to come back, and the ranges for hormonal things are so massive that 9 chances out of 10, the client's going to fall within range. I'm using air quotes. Right. But they're still feeling like shit. They don't have, there's so many problems and issues going on, but the physician's not trained at a level to be able to analyze that data and then make a decision that is tailored, like you said earlier, to that specific client.
Well, and what I've learned with 10X Health Systems is that you don't want a normal hormone level. You want an optimal hormone level.
Right.
And that is something that we focus on. And that's where we see the huge difference and the huge shifts in even a very short amount of time. 20 weeks on a program from 10X Health will change your life. will change your
Absolutely.
life.
We
Yes.
won't get into it, but I mean, I'm sure you've heard the Dana White story. So Dana White's the president of the UFC, guys. And Gary got connected with Dana through a mutual friend. Dana was having a laundry list. There's a whole podcast on it I'll share with everybody, or you can probably just Google Dana White, Gary Brecka. It'll pop up. And having a laundry list of medical conditions, like really serious. Like, I think Gary said that in his entire career doing this, he's only received this call like 3 to 5 times. And it's a call from the lab that says we have a 911 emergency. And I want to say it was because his hematocrit level, or maybe that was a homocysteine level. I think it was his homocysteine level was at a unheard of, like where his blood was almost the thickness of like thick maple syrup.
Correct.
And so that triggered Gary to get on a plane from Florida, fly to Las Vegas. And I want to say within 6 weeks, maybe less, of Dana being on the 10X Health Systems protocol, all of his blood markers, and they just came on the other day because people were saying, oh, this is BS, this isn't true. And they actually, with Dana's permission, obviously, because you can't talk about people's blood work publicly without the patient's consent. And so they shared both blood panels on the screen side by side with Dana in the room verifying these are my, you can see the dates, you can see everything. In less than 6 weeks, every one of his markers had come down to a drastically amazing level compared to what they were at. And so like Mary Beth said, with a small amount of change, and we're going to talk about that, how you can get that small amount of change with something really, really simplistic. And so the hormone thing drives me insane. And then we get into the nutritional deficiency, Mary Beth. Let's talk about that for a second, and then we'll move into the diagnostics.
So yeah, the nutritional deficiencies, your vitamin deficiencies, where you fix one and ignore all the others. Like people are all about vitamin D3. Well, they don't realize you need the K2 for the absorption, and it just builds, and the DHEA next, and the thyroid, and all the other hormones and nutrients that you're missing. So they really focus on all of those in that comprehensive 68 biomarker lab draw, which is only 5 tubes, by the way. So it's not a lot of blood.
See, I love it when they take a lot, because here's my theory on that, Mary Beth. I don't like needles, and I feel like if you're going to stick me, I want you to get a whole bunch of it.
But you do it 5 tubes. It's okay.
Yeah, I know. It's not as impressive. Like when they roll out like 12 tubes, I'm like, okay, I got my money's worth today. But I do love the 5 tube thing too. That you're right on that. Let's touch on the hormone thing one more time. I think a lot of people also have a misconception that you have 3 hormones. You think it's testosterone, progesterone, and estrogen. That's it. Like that's all we have. Guys, that could not be further from the truth. Those are just your most predominant sex hormones that everybody knows about. But we have a laundry list of hormones that get absolutely zero publicity, but might be just as important, if not more important, than those 3. And so that's one of the missing links. When you go to your doctor and say, hey, I think my hormones are messed up, like they're not looking at all those. I guarantee you, most of you guys didn't even know that insulin was a hormone. And then I bet you've never even looked at your blood work and looked at your homocysteine levels and your, those different levels, your cytokines and things of that nature, and have no idea the relevancy to all of things like Mary Beth was saying. Like vitamin D3 is amazing, but without his best friend, he's lonely, right? And he can't do what he's supposed to do. So he needs K2 in order to be absorbed and actually have proper utilization. And so that's why that's so important in the 3-pillar aspect of that. So let's jump in, Mary Beth. So there's really 3 things that you're focusing on and doing with 10X Health Systems as of right now. Complexity is going to grow and expand, but right now we're looking at blood diagnostics. So we're going to dive into each one of these individually. So blood diagnostics, genetic testing, and then IV therapy. Correct. So let's start at the top with the blood diagnostics, 68 biomarkers. What makes that different? The actual test itself, and then the after test protocol, then when you just go and you get your routine blood work done and then nobody knows what to do with it.
Okay, so what makes this different is it's comprehensive ability. It covers your chemistries, your blood sugar, your how your liver works, and then it goes on to check all your lipids, and it checks all of your hormone levels. It's so comprehensive in one foul swoop instead of, just pieces of it like you had mentioned.
Well, because what happens is my client will say, well, Jay, I went and got, this is what they just did. They just did this. Like they didn't even, it's very incomprehensive. And then oftentimes I will send them with a list and I'll say, hey, tell your doctor you want this. And the doctor will say, you don't need that.
That's right.
What do you mean I don't need this? It's my life. It's my body. Like I do need this. I want to know this. That's always blown my mind when a client says they wouldn't do it. And I'm like,
Right.
what do you mean they wouldn't do it? Did you ask nicely? And then did you ask aggressively? Like, I don't care what it takes, get it done. So this takes the guesswork out of that because it
Right.
just gets done properly, right? It's like
Correct.
the diagnostics are the diagnostics. There's no cutting corners. We're going to get everything from A to Z. All of your normal panels, right? All of your normal blood chemistry, your, what do they call it? Your CBC or whatever.
Yeah,
You're going to get
right.
all of that jazz.
All of that. Yep.
But then you're going to get the really technical, important things so that you can understand what is going on. Because like Mary Beth mentioned earlier, that I thought was really important. Everything is tied to everything else, right? It's like, yes, vitamin D3 is amazing, but without K2, it doesn't have the functionality to do what it is it's designed to do. And then that leads to another biochemical reaction that, if not properly functional, can't do what it's supposed to do. And so
Correct.
there's a lot of markers that are really important. And then that leads me to the next thing. So Mary Beth, let's talk about genetic testing, because I think most people hear that word. They think 23andMe, you're going to tell me that I have blue eyes, I'm 17% Eastern European, 11% Croatian, and blah, blah, blah. That is not what we're talking about.
No,
Okay,
not in the least.
Okay, right. Well, I knew that. I just tried to. We're talking about actionable genes, like genes that matter, your DNA, like what you're made of. And there's 5 actionable genes that this genetic test actually looks at and tests for. So talk to me about that.
Correct. So this is done by just swabbing the inside of each cheek 10 times. And it takes about 2 weeks to get the results back. It's painless and just pretty quick, all things considered. When that comes back, it is reviewed by both our physician and a team that goes over all of their results. So you get an email, and then you get a actual, like a telehealth visit that's going to go over every single result of those 5 actionable genes. And by actionable, it means when there is a break considered in any one of those genes in the DNA, we can supplement that to fix it.
Okay. So let's touch on that. And I want to backtrack one piece. So with the blood diagnostic 68 markers, can we also get a next level of assistance in the analysis of that blood?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. I knew the answer to that. I just want to drive that point home.
Yes.
You're not going to get your blood test done, guys, and then be sitting there without the idea of what do I do next? And you're going to get to speak to someone who this is all they do. Like, this isn't somebody who this isn't the nurse at the office who is also doing like 11 million other things, like super busy, overworked, underpaid. This is somebody who is designed specifically to look at blood and analyze and then give recommendations. Same thing with the genetic testing. After it's reviewed by the physician, the team looks at it and looks at the 5 actionable genes. And then there is a prescriptive course, if you will, of what are the next steps in order to fix that. Mary Beth, let's give them an example. So what's an example of one of the 5 actionable genes that might have a genetic break in it? And what would that look like? And then how would that be fixed or correct?
Okay. So the one that most people will recognize when they hear it is the lovely MTHFR gene. And that is a break that can present that you can't break down folic acid.
Right.
So what does that mean? Folic acid is in everything. It's an additive in anything boxed, and in our diet, it's in so many things. And if you're not able to break down or process or methylate folic acid, what do you see? You see ADHD, you see anxiety, you see mental disorders. There's a laundry list of things that this gene just by itself, can cause if it's not functioning properly.
We've got to unpack a little bit there. So 44% of human beings have a break in the MTHFR gene. Correct. So let's just call it 50%, guys. So almost half of you listening right now will have a genetic breakage in your MTHFR. That's we need to know that, right? Because like what Mary Beth was saying, and then let's touch on folic acid for a quick second, because I don't think people understand this. Folic acid is found nowhere in nature. That's my dramatic pause. Nowhere in nature, meaning it is not God created, it is man-made. Now you're thinking, well, wait a minute, what do you mean folic acid is man-made? Folic acid is man-made. Folic acid is created by us. And anytime you've eaten something that comes out of a box or a bag, if you've eaten any kind of wheat, anything grown in a field that has the word fortified on it, that means it's been sprayed with folic acid. So let's just stop really quick. If it is man-made, that means our body, 44% of us don't have the ability to even understand what it is and or utilize it. But yet most of the foods we're consuming because of the standard American diet are from boxes and bags and have been fortified with folic acid. But if I'm consuming massive amounts of something that my body can't utilize, can't break down, can't understand, what are the ramifications and the side effects of that? Mary Beth just touched on it. This is why we're seeing radical increases in ADHD, like some mental and cognitive issues, like all kinds of like postpartum depression, because they put women on these high folic acids because of folic acid is supposed to decrease neural tube defects and blah, 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 blah. But they don't tell you the other side of that, which it creates the psychological effect of the postpartum situation. So Mary Beth, dive into the methylation part of that for me, because the problem is your body can't methylate the folic acid. And if it can't methylate it, then that's where you run into the issue. So what's the corrective measure if somebody has the MTHFR mutation? What would happen?
So in any of those breaks in any of the 5 actionable genes, we do provide supplements that the body is able to break down, bioidentical instead of synthetic. So right. The supplements that we can use to, fill in the gaps of what you're not able to break down will correct the break and the symptoms will go away.
Right, the symptoms and the situation, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's gonna actually correct the genetic break in that right. process. And so right. you guys can see how that is a vital piece that you've probably never even been privy to, you've never known about, and this is available to everybody. This isn't something that's like unavailable because of any other reason other than it just hasn't been put out there, because it's not treated with the pharmaceutical. It can actually be treated with a natural supplement that you can take. And there's 4 more actionable genes that could possibly be linked to other situations that you're experiencing that could be corrected so simply without any pharmaceutical or medical intervention that this genetic testing is going to uncover. And it's a one and done. You only have to get this test done once in your entire lifetime, because they're not going to change. Like your genetic test or your genetic code is going to be your genetic code. So if you have a child and you get it for them and they're 8 years old, they never, ever, ever have to get this test done again. And they'll know their 5 actionable genes if they need corrective help with those or if they're functioning perfectly normally. And so this is a beautiful, beautiful test that I believe that we should all invest in, because it could be a game changer. It could be an absolute life changer for, again, one of the things is the MTHFR, and 44% of you listening right now are going to have a genetic break in that. And that's going to be causing you some medical issues, some health issues that are simply correctable. I don't know how much easier I could say that. That just sounds amazing to me. Like it's that easy to correct something just with a little bit of knowledge. All right, Mev, let's dive into the third piece of kind of what you're doing, Mary Beth, which is the IV therapy, the IV drip. So I think a lot of people think about an IV drip and they think, okay, well, I'm in Vegas and I drank too much and here we go. I'm going to need to get some hydration. Explain to me a little bit more about the complexity of what it is we're talking about and some of the different variations of the IV therapy.
Okay, so the number one reason to even do IV therapy as opposed to, well, why can't I just take the vitamins, in a pill form? Why do I have to have the needle and get the IV? Well, when you take a pill, it has to go through your own GI system and you don't know what you're getting or the amount you're getting or what you're absorbing. with the IV, everyone gets absorbed the effects absorb the same way. So that's like the pro to absolutely go the IV route to even start with. But we offer, other than just the multivitamin aspect of the infusions, we do the add-ons like the glutathione, the antioxidants, the NAD, which is the buzzword these days. But antioxidant, it is the best thing you can do for yourself. But with one of these infusions, the 10X cocktail with the NAD, it temporarily fixes all 5 possible genetic breaks that someone could be experiencing, and it lasts for about 2 weeks.
Okay.
So it's amazing. I've experienced it myself, and I can tell you it is just incredible. You know the effects immediately after that infusion of the 10X cocktail with the NAD. So we do the vitamins, we have the immunity. So that's a big one now. So, the immunity blend for the cold and the flu. There's, of course, your standard recovery blend for someone that maybe is post-op or, just having some issues with their health and they want that. There's the hangover blend, of course, if you're nauseous or have a headache or just overdid it for New Year's or because your family was in town. But yeah, it's great. I love it. I think these IV therapies are absolutely a great add-on to complement the other 2 tests that we have with the genetic and the blood work.
Yeah, let's talk about 2 of those just so people can get a better understanding around that. So let's talk about the immunity IV for a second. Do I have to be sick in order to get that? Should I get that before I get sick? Should I get that while I'm sick, after I'm sick to recover? Like, when's the best time for somebody to, and then can you tell us a little bit about the immunity blend? Like, what is it? High dose vitamin C? Is it a Myers cocktail derivative? Like, what is it?
So in the immunity blend, we focus on magnesium is added, vitamin C, high dose. I want to say it's about 5,000 in that bag. We do calcium gluconate. We do hypocobalamin, vitamin B, and I believe that's it off the top of my head. So just the high dose vitamin C's, vitamin B's, magnesium, and the calcium in that. Yeah, it's really, so again, to answer your question, when should you get it?
Yeah.
Before, during, and after. And if you've been exposed to someone that's sick, if you want to prevent being sick, or if you're really sick, anytime is a great time to have that immunity booster.
Yeah. I love that you touched on the B12 in there. I mean, I think if you guys you listen to Gary at all, like there's actually a toxic form of B12 that most of us are experiencing. Like if you drink energy drinks or if some supplements that are on the counter have a B12 that is a derivative of cyanide. So it's cyanocobalamin. If you see that on your label, please stop taking it. It's actually derived from a cyanide level solution that is then driven down into a B12 synthetic version of B12. So I love the fact that 10X Health Systems is even that dialed in to make sure they're using really pure and clean sources of even things that go down as far as like B12 and B12 injections and things of that nature. Let's talk about the NAD infusion for a while, because that is super buzzy and some people might have heard of that. So the NAD or the NAD plus, what would be the benefits of someone? And I can speak from experience. I've probably gotten 20 NAD infusions over the course of the last 2 or 3 years. So what would be the benefit of that?
So one of the biggest things I hear from clients that have had the NAD, including myself, is the immediate notice that your brain fog is gone. You didn't realize how foggy you may be unless you have this supplemented back into your body, and your body has NAD in it. Like, we're putting NAD back to where it should be in the first place. So, the brain fog is one of the number one things that people realize, that it disappears with the NAD, with the antioxidants.
Yeah, I would definitely validate that. I call it's like it gives you like really like a mental clarity
and the best sleep.
Yeah, you feel really I don't even know how to the best way to describe it. Really clear, really focused, really light, and like your body just feels really. So one of the reasons NAD was even kind of brought to market, like a long time ago, it was realized that they were using it in some therapies for addicts, for people who were trying to come off of drugs. They were putting them on a high dose NAD therapy, and it was actually helping to eradicate. I mean, I don't know if eradicate the addiction is the right word, but actually help these patients come off of the drugs they were addicted to, and helping them to stay in recovery because of the cognitive effects and the way that it basically helped the body.
Exactly right. And just to touch upon all of the treatments, all of the therapies, all of the testing is under the direct supervision of a physician here at 10X Health Systems. So it's not just, nurses or technicians or, salespeople, coming up with this. This is directly under the supervision of Dr. Carrie Stardust. So we are under a
So
medical director.
that's a great transition, Mary Beth. So if somebody is listening right now and they're like, I live in Palm Desert, I live in Palm Springs, I live close enough, like I want to get this, like I want to get in touch with Mary Beth. Like, so you're right now, what I would call it like a concierge level of care. So like you will actually come to their home and do the blood draw. So they don't have to go to LabCorp, they don't have to go to Quest, they don't have to go anywhere like that. You'll actually come to their location, and I was going to say extract the blood, but you'll draw the blood, you'll do the genetic testing, you can do the IV therapies, and you can do all three of these a la carte as well, guys. I don't want to make it sound like you have to do all three of these, probably should, but these are a la carte type options. And so what we'll do is we will link the best way to get in touch with Mary Beth if you're interested. So Mary Beth, what if I want to get this genetic testing done and I'm one of my clients who lives in Iowa, for example, and they're like, well, I trust Jay, I know Mary Beth, I can't get this in Iowa, what do I do? Can you help them get this process rolling?
Absolutely. So the genetic testing and the blood work can be done no matter where you are in the world.
Beautiful.
So we have an email link. You would get a link for a lab slip to any LabCorp, no matter where you lived in any state here in the United States. You can go to LabCorp and they will draw your blood. Just take your email slip with you and they'll draw it there. And then with the swabs, they would be shipped directly to you, to the client, and you would just self-administer your own little swab of your cheek 10 times each side, and then put it in a FedEx envelope and send it back. Okay. Results for both are usually running now 2 to 3 weeks. So no matter where you are.
And they could get access to that through you, even though they
Correct.
don't live here. They would just reach out to you. You would set them up with the email link and take care of all of that. If they're local and it worked, you would go to their house and actually do that. And or if they didn't, want you to come over, you didn't have time, you could do the whole thing as well through LabCorp and through the whole 9 yards.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
What is the best way if somebody's listening right now and they're like, I don't want to wait for this, for me to have to read anything. What's the best way for somebody to reach you or contact you to make sure that they could get this started tomorrow if they wanted to?
So I have an email.
Okay.
It's msummers@10xhealthsystem.com.
So spell
mSOMERS@10xhealthsystem.com.
So mSOMERS@10xhealthsystem or systems? System, no S.
No S.
Singular system.com.
Correct.
Mary Beth, you'd be surprised. Somebody was going to try to put an S in there, and somebody was also going to spell your name SUMMERS.
That's
Summers.
true.
So
that is true.
It's Summers, SOMERS. Guys, that'll be in the show notes. That'll be everywhere you need to find it. And that will be the simplest way. Mary Beth, I hope your email gets so overflowed. You're a psychopath. I wish we hadn't done this because I'm so busy. Because I really do want people to, this is going to come out right at the beginning of the year, beginning of 2023. And so many people are going to say, this is the year that I take my health seriously. This is the year that I get myself healthy and fit. I got those little grandkids. I got that daughter. I want to walk down the aisle. I got all this stuff I want to do. Guys, it starts with knowing what you're dealing with, and I think a lot of times, especially as men, I'll speak from a man's perspective, is we would rather not know, right? A man's theory is don't tell me and everything will be fine. right? So I even have to coach myself out of that and say, okay, moron, we need to know what we need to know. And so, guys, I'm doing all of this. And what I'll do is I'm going to get my blood done through Mary Beth. I'm going to get the genetic testing done through Mary Beth. We will jump back on here and I'll open the books to what I'm dealing with, my genetic breakages and what they are, if I'm MTHFR deficient or whatever, and we'll share that with you. And then I'll share what it is that I'm going to do to correct that. Because I don't believe in just spouting off information and saying all this wild stuff without doing it yourself. So I'm going to do all this. We'll follow up on me and what I'm doing, and then we'll do a retest in 3-6 months, whatever it looks like. And we'll do an evaluation and we'll see what it is and how my body has adapted to the new systems and the new things of that nature. So, and I can tell you, as someone who is a very uber health conscious, I get my blood work done probably a minimum of twice a year, but usually 3 to 4 times a year. I just had it done, I want to say in November, but I'm not going to wait. I'm going to go ahead and get this done because I want to see the differentiation in the biomarkers from what I'm usually used to getting. And so regardless of where you are, and listen, I want to make this statement as well. Your primary care physician and your current doctors are doing the best they can. They are doing amazing. They are humans just like all of us. They're overworked. They're underpaid. It's chaos and craziness out there. So by no way, shape, or form are we saying that you should break up with your primary care physician, or you should cancel your insurance, or you should do anything radical. We're simply saying that this is the next level. This is the next level of care. This is the next level of preventative care. And when you get this information, you're actually going to weaponize your current medical practitioner's ability to help you, because you're going to go in as an educated patient. You're going to have the information of what you need to do. And there's certain things, guys, that your doctor is not going to genetically test you and go through this entire methylization process with you. They're just not going to do it. They don't have time. They're overworked. And so if you knew this information and you could handle this without ever having to make an appointment, why would you not do that? Right? And that might just be the missing link between you feeling amazing in 2023 or you experiencing another year of no energy, low energy, no libido, no drive, weight gain, all of those things. So Mary Beth, do I seem excited?
You seem very excited, Jay.
Okay, good. I didn't know about, I'm trying to control myself, but this is why I do what I do. I love this. I love you. I love the fact that you're doing this. And I just got goosebumps. This is so important, guys. This is so valuable. This is so vital. This is so crucial to us getting to the next level of our health and I think health is wealth. I think the healthier we are, that everything in life is a possibility if we get healthy. And so I'm uber stoked about this. Mary Beth, thank you for being who you are, doing what it is you're doing, helping to change the world. And this is going to be so amazing. I can't believe we get the opportunity to be a part of this and to have something that we can use as a resource. So you got anything you want to leave us with, MB?
No, I just want to say thank you, Jay, for having me on today. I am super excited about 2023 and how many people that are going to be helped with this process, and just super excited for what the future holds for this.
Me too. And you guys don't know how lucky you are. Mary Beth is quite possibly, she's in my top 5 list of nicest people on the planet, which that's big. To get into that list, you got to be pretty special. And so you're getting access to an amazing human that cares about people and this stuff that we're talking about more than you could ever imagine. And so you don't even know how lucky you are yet. You'll figure that out once you contact Mary Beth. If you're part of my group, if you're part of the Thrive Forever Fit Flex family, you've got access to Mary Beth in our private Facebook page. Let's don't blow her away with messages and whatnot. But she's available. We can bring Mary Beth on to the page anytime that we want to go over these things in detail. And so if you're not part of the Thrive Forever Fix family, you can join. We'd love to have you. But if you are, guys, this is just another resource that you've got access to that could be life-changing and pivotal for you. So Mary Beth, thank you. for being you. And this is going to be super exciting. I'm pumped about it.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you so
All right.
much.
All right, buddy. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, before you go, I'd just like to say thank you again for listening to the Thrive Forever Fit podcast and watching on YouTube. It means the absolute world to me. And if you would do me one favor, and that is simply subscribe and review this podcast on whatever platform it is that you enjoy it on, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, doesn't matter. I would absolutely be so grateful and so thankful if you do that for me. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you again next week with an awesome episode. Bye.